Hello, everybody, and welcome to the eighth? Okay, hold on. I'm going to do it again. Words were not working there. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the last episode of the Coffin Corner Podcast for Season 3. I'm your host, GoodNightPunk, and with me, as always, is my good friend, Richie. Richie, what's going on? All right, we made it through.
we got there eventually. It was a long road, a long journey. But
it's off season time. It's time for a break.
It is.
Then we won't have that happening anymore.
It's not week 8, as some people seem to think. It is the off season.
I wouldn't mind going back to week 8. I'm just if everything stayed the same, then I wouldn't mind. The crushing defeat of the playoffs would not be fun to go through a second time, but if I knew it could be changed, then maybe it would be all right.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking about it, and I'm like, usually for Washington, I don't want to relive seasons, but I'd relive this season again, even knowing how it ends. Like, it was great.
Like, it was actually fun to watch every game.
Yeah. It would actually be more fun to watch it knowing that all those close games end in victories rather than just having that pit of worry sitting in my stomach the entire time.
Please catch this Hail Mary. Please.
Yeah. Are we going to be able to drive down the field for a touchdown again? And then we do, and it'd be nice to sit back and relax, but like, Dad, we got this.
Yeah, exactly. No, I understand. So, makes sense. It was a fun season. And now we can recap it.
Yes. Do a quick recap and then look at some of the off-season news that's already coming out and maybe look forward to free agency a little bit. I figure we'll do a free agency preview. Well, maybe more of a free agency preview, scouting combine recap, like the week before free agency starts. Because we missed our scouting combine pod last year. And that's when we, looking at those RAS scores and picking sleepers, that's when we really gotta make sure we do. So,
for sure, that one's fun.
But yeah, for this week's top 5, I was thinking, it came to me because I saw an article about it, but I figured why not? This should be fun. It's top 5 non-playoff teams from this year that we think will bounce back and make the playoffs in 2025. Because there's always turnover.
There's always a Cinderella.
Card. Yeah, Commanders.
The last to first.
Yeah, so it's like, all right, who do we think is going to do that this year? And then maybe next time we'll do top 5 playoff teams that we don't think make the playoffs next year. But I'll start us off. I took the NFC because I made the list, so I wanted to take the NFC. But number 5, this one was tough. 5 was tough because the top 4 I feel like are teams that were either close to making the playoffs or good teams that had bad seasons. But finding the 5th team in the NFC was basically like, all right, which one of these bad teams could maybe turn things around? And I went with the Cardinals, actually. They did finish 8-9. And there is talent on the team.
Young talent.
They are just very inconsistent. That's just they'll destroy the Rams one week and then get destroyed the next week. Like, they're just very up and down. But I think maybe another offseason, load up some more talent on the defense, get a playmaker on defense. I mean, I could name you maybe 2 players on that entire defense, and that's a local team. So yeah, get some playmakers, and then get Marvin Harrison Jr. more involved. Like, I could see them winning 9 or 10 games next year.
So I was just thinking about this, right? With Kyler Murray, I was thinking about the comparison of like Jameis Winston, right? But let's pretend Jameis Winston's ceiling's way up here and his floor's down here, right? For Kyler Murray, you got the middle here. For Kyler Murray, that ceiling drops about halfway, but the floor never moves. That's how I feel about Kyler Murray. He can either be good or he can be really, really bad. And it's going to boil down to whether he can play above that line where there's a lot less room for error than he has played in the past. And will he do that?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Yeah, it's a shame because, I mean, I don't remember what year it was, but he had like an MVP type run to start the year and then got hurt. And it's just, I don't know. I don't know what it is about Kyler Murray that he can never seem to reach those heights again. Now, like you said, it's like, this is about as good as you're going to get from him. And then, yeah, but when he's bad, whoo, boy, is he bad. Yeah.
It's like Jameis Winston levels bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's your first team?
All right, so first, for me, so with the AFC, a lot of these are going to have get in front of them. That's my caveat to all these teams because I don't know that any of them right now could do it. But there are ways for them to do it, and that is basically for the Raiders, it's to get a quarterback. And that's the biggest thing for them. And because I think Pete Carroll still has juice left in the tank if he can get a quarterback. And if he can get a quarterback, that it kind of starts the ball rolling down the hill because if they can get something at quarterback, they might not lose Max Crosby. But if they do lose Max Crosby, that's just another thing that they are going to have a feather in their cap, let's say, for getting more draft picks that can be good for next year. So we'll see what happens with that because the Raiders, I always thought they had a decent enough team. They got rid of the wide receiver they traded to the Jets, but I do still like Jacoby Myers. I think he can be a number one. And but they really need a halfback, that quarterback position for sure. But they got their defense plays pretty decently, so we'll see.
Yeah, they definitely got talent on defense. I think quarterback, running back, and another wide receiver would be huge for them. I like Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers, fantastic.
Brock Bowers with an actual quarterback, here we go.
Do you think that they go after Russell Wilson with the Pete Carroll connection?
I don't think those two like each other. So I don't think so.
Oh.
So yeah, I think it's Sam Darnold. If they go for Sam Darnold or Kirk Cousins. Those are my two picks for the Raiders.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see them sign somebody like that. I know everybody talks about them drafting Shadir Sanders, and I don't know. I could see it, but also I don't think he'll be there at 6 when they pick, so we'll see. But
yeah, they won at the end of the season to kind of screw themselves, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. They could have the number 1 pick. Well, speaking of Kirk Cousins, my number 4 team is the Falcons. I think Michael Penix really showed something at the end of the year. I think they do have a lot of talent. You talk about Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts. I like Drake London, so I think the Falcons are an up-and-coming team next year under Michael Penix. I could definitely see them even winning that division, which is so freaking up in the air. So yeah, I like the trajectory the Falcons are on.
Well, it took them to the end of this last week to not make the playoffs. And I think if we were to go back and look at our predictions, we had, at least one of us had them in the playoffs. I'm pretty sure I did. So that makes sense to me. They played really well. Kirk Cousins was not the fix at quarterback, but Bo Penix, when he played, looks really good. So I think
Michael Penix.
Yeah, Michael Penix. I'm mixing Bo Nix and Michael Penix.
Yeah.
That's the same person. So I'm with you on that one. That makes sense.
Yeah.
My number 4 is a team that really doesn't have to do a lot as far as pieces go, as far as their offense goes, at least. And that is the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the get for them is to get the pieces to fit. Having Travis Etienne, they've got a good set of wide receivers. They have a quarterback that, the jury's somehow still out on, despite the fact that he just continues to underwhelm, despite everyone saying that if he played better, he could be a top quarterback in the NFL, which I feel like you could say that about every quarterback.
Yeah,
if you just play better, you'll be great.
Basic, like, man, can you imagine if he threw more touchdowns, he'd score more points? Like, yeah, no shit, that's how the game works. Yeah.
So would every backup in the NFL. Like,
yeah.
Okay. So, yeah.
No, I agree. I think the Jaguars. I'm kind of out on Trevor Lawrence at this point. I feel like it's been long enough. We've given him a long enough chance. He's not going to be the Andrew Luck that everyone thought he was going to be coming out of college. I don't think he's ever going to be that good. Could he be above average? Sure. And they've got a ton of weapons, but I don't think he's ever going to be the game changer people said he was going to be when he was drafted. But we'll see. Liam Cohen is not off to a good start in Jacksonville, but we'll see how it plays out on the field.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be interesting how the coaching goes.
Yeah. My number 3 is the Seahawks. They were literally the 8 team the 8 team in the NFC. Like, they won 10 games. They had a good year. I'm not a believer in Geno Smith. I do think the Seahawks have a good team, but I don't know if Geno Smith is I'm sure he'll still be the starter next year, but it sure seems like the door is closing for him. But they have a good team, good coaching. DK Metcalf, the other guy, Jackson Smith and Jigba came along this year. I mean, they've got a lot of talent on that team, and I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be winning another 10 games next year and maybe sneaking in.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I like the Seahawks. In Jigba this season, breakout. Amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
really
just
broke my heart as a DK Metcalf owner in fantasy football. But
yeah, he pretty much said, "I'm the captain now." But
yes, he did.
It worked out well for him. So, my number 3 is the Miami Dolphins, who once again just did not have the season that they hoped for. And the get I put down for them is for them to get on the same page, because Tyreek Hill, he's playing the heel. Tyreek Hill,
accurate, yeah.
He's at the end of the season basically like, it was great here. I can't wait to see how things go in the future, wherever that is. And it is like, what? The season just ended. You just barely missed the playoffs, and you're saying stuff like this, and then like 2 weeks later is like, no, Miami's where I want to be. And it's like, then why did you start the drama? Like, come on. They're all over the place there because they should be winning. They should be having better seasons, but Tua can't stay healthy. Tyreek Hill didn't do anything this season. It's just, if they get back on the same page between the players, Mike McDaniels, just everything there, that offense scored 70 points last year. Like, they are a good offense. They just need to figure it back out. So.
Yeah, the Dolphins are another one of those teams, kind of like the Jaguars, that have a ridiculous amount of talent, especially at this, wide receiver and running back and everything. It's just the lines, defensive lines, offensive lines. It's just mistakes. It's like, yeah, the ceiling super high for him. Plus Tua missed 5, 6 games, 7 games again. Like, if Tua could play an entire season, that would be huge for them. So we shall see. My 4th team is I guess my number 2 team is the Dallas Cowboys. And I say this as a Commanders fan. I think the Cowboys, they had a lot of health issues last year. Obviously, losing Dak. They had no running back. I think new coach Brian Schottenheimer, who was there already, they'll find a running back in the draft, probably Ashton Genty, that everybody says they're going to draft. They'll pay some big name free agent wide receiver to come play opposite. The hell's his name? I can't think of it right now. Thank you. And then, of course, Michael Parsons missed time last year. Like, their defense, they had a lot of health issues. I think the Cowboys will come back and go back to winning, winning a bunch of games and being the Cowboys. But I not
But
what
it
I
was
want
nice
to
to
happen.
have. It was nice to have a year
Yeah,
off. You know.
it was. It was very nice, and it gave the Commanders a nice season. And boy, do I wish the Cowboys could go into rebuild mode for 5-10 years. But that's not the luck we have. So,
But much like the Lakers, they're fed things that
yep.
other teams aren't given the opportunity for. So.
You know, I know this is a football podcast, but how? What were the Mavericks thinking? Like, I'm not a basketball guy, but like, I see that trade on paper and think, what happened?
Yeah, the Suns traded for Kevin Durant and had to trade Mikal Bridges, Cameron Johnson, and 4 first-round picks to get a 35-year-old. The Lakers somehow traded Anthony Davis, who's never healthy, some other younger player, and then a first-round pick, and they were just given a 25-year-old top 3 player in the NBA. It's astonishing how
The
that worked
NBA
out.
has this crazy belief in name over anything else, I think. Like, and people like look at Anthony Davis and they're like, "Oh, I know that name, so clearly he must be good." And that's what fans think, but for the GM of the Mavericks to think that too is very upsetting. For him to be like, "Oh, Anthony Davis, I know that name."
He got hurt in his first game as a Maverick.
I saw that.
Non-contact.
No, he
playing.
didn't. No, he didn't get hurt. He bowed out. He was like, "I don't want to fucking play here." Did you see? I watched that play. He is not hurt. He just straight up was like, "Fuck this, I'm done.
Yeah.
I ain't playing for Dallas." Yeah, it's so funny. It's annoying because it's the Lakers, but it's like, it's just why I just can't follow basketball because it's like a cartoon at this point. Yeah. Like, it doesn't act like a real sport. Like, whatever. All right, who's your number 2 team?
All right, so my number 2 is the Indianapolis Colts, and their get healthy. Anthony Richardson again missed time throughout the season. Doesn't help them that they were playing with who was their backup this year? Was it Flacco again?
Flacco. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you have to play the very old Flacco to start games, you're in trouble. So then you got to get Richardson's got to up his toughness factor. He took a big hit popularity-wise by bowing out of a game randomly, which quarterbacks never do. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. But I feel like the Colts have they have one of the best halfbacks in the NFL. They have a very good receiving core. I don't know if they have stars, but Josh Downs, Alec Pierce, they've got guys that catch a lot of balls and get a lot of yards. And a quarterback that is electric. So I think their offense is good, and they played enough very close games this season that I think that they have a chance next year. They just got to stay healthy. At least Richardson does.
When we're done our lists, there's and you have one team left, but there was a team that you left off that I was surprised that you left it off. So I'm gonna just remind me to bring that up. But my last team is the 49ers, simply because they were in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. They had a bad year, a lot of time missed. I mean, they lost Ayuk, Debo, McCaffrey didn't play at all. So this is a turning point, I think, for them. They're either going to bounce back and be fine next year, or this offseason they're going to get rid of Debo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Trent Williams, and start a rebuild, and they'll extend Brock Purdy, who didn't look that good last year, and maybe the wheels are coming off, and it'll be the end of their window. So it's either a one-year hiccup or last year was the beginning of the end. And I'm curious to see which way it is, but I feel like they'll be back in the playoffs.
Yeah, they're another one of those NFL stalwart teams where if they go to a rebuild, it's not going to take a long time. Plus, their GMs build the team for a couple of years of success and then maybe one bad year to rebuild again, a lot like the Rams do. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. The last team on my list is, of course, the Cincinnati Bengals, who I feel like every year their offense has a shot to win a Super Bowl. The problem is get a freaking defense. Because if they had any sibling of a defense this past year, they would have been making noise in the playoffs. They didn't make the playoffs because they didn't have a defense, and that was their biggest problem. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed. We love Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. We love the Bengals. They came close to making the playoffs, even though they started out awfully horrible in the year.
Oh, so bad. Then that's their thing.
Yeah.
They have to start well next year to even have a shot, because every year they start like 1-4, and they're like, all right, we're gonna play the comeback game all season.
Yeah, I don't know why, but yeah, they. I think I would like to see them in the playoffs because, yeah, I do love Joe Burrow, man. I want to see that dude in the Super Bowl one again. So, yeah, okay, so the team that you left off, I was surprised you left them off because I do know you like a lot of the players in this team, is the Jets.
Unfortunately, they suck.
Do you think they suck because the players aren't as good, or is it was a coaching issue and maybe a quarterback issue? Because, I mean, I still like Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Sauce Gardner. Like, I like a lot of those players. I think the Jets, with a new coach and a new quarterback, could make some noise next year.
I don't like their offense, like, whatsoever. Breece Hall is about the only one, and even him, he's made these last 2 years make me not think he is who I thought he was. And maybe that is the quarterback, but their defense is good. Their defense is good, and I feel like the defense can carry that team. The problem is I don't like Garrett Wilson. I don't like Breece Hall's made me question, with everything that's gone on with Aaron Rodgers there, how good he really is. And it's just, I don't know that offense as it stands, even with a quarterback, is going to instantly turn anything around. At least for next year on the non-playoff teams that will make the playoffs next year. So, could they make it the year after that? If they get a young quarterback and they develop him next year and some offensive pieces, then yeah, I think so. But I don't think next year they'll make it. I mean, they've had two years straight where they had a better year under Zach Wilson than they did under Aaron Rodgers. They went backwards. So, I don't know.
Yeah. No,
that does speak to your point that Aaron Rodgers is gone. They had a better year even with Zach Wilson, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I depends on who they get at quarterback. They won't go rookie because they're not. I don't think they're picking high enough. I think they're gonna sign one of the veterans. Sam Darnold would be hilarious to me if they signed him.
Just goes back.
Yeah, he just goes back. But I still like Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall and Sauce and all them. I think with new leadership under Aaron Glenn, and depending on where they go quarterback, I'm like, all right, I can see them making some noise as a wild card, but
yeah, we
shall see. All right, well, moving into the news, we just mentioned it actually. The Jets moving on from Aaron Rodgers. They've made it official. Well, they haven't officially cut it, but they've said publicly we are going to move on. Yeah. It's just a matter of if they cut him now when he can sign before free agency starts, or if they cut him, I think it's like a post June 1st designation, then he has to wait until free agency starts. I don't know what they're going to end up doing. Any guesses where he ends up?
Retired.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. I think he ends up on McAfee show.
I mean, the last time he was a free agent, there was only one team that wanted him. And now they don't want him. Who's going to take him?
The only team I've seen that people have said maybe is the Steelers, because they're the only one that's a contender. But he's not going to Tennessee.
If you're a contender, why would you sign him? What, because of what he did 5 years ago, 6 years ago? There's no, being a contender does not, he wants a contender. I don't feel like any contender wants him.
Yeah, they shouldn't. And Mike Tomlin's
especially the Steelers. The Steelers, they're going to stay with Justin Fields. The guy was 4-2 when he was starting. That's their guy now, at least for next year. I would feel better as a Steeler fan having Justin Fields than I would Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
So
I completely agree. Because if you sign Aaron Rodgers, then you're going to have to sign Devontae Adams, and probably other players he likes. But yeah, I think he ends up on McAfee's show. I don't see he won't be a backup, so he just won't be in the NFL.
well, that was the other thing. People are like, well, the Raiders could sign him, but they would only want to sign him if he was willing to compete for the starting job. And I'm like, yeah, right. Like an former MVP is not going to go to a team to fight for a job. That's not going to happen.
No.
And the teams that's the only way it makes sense for a team to be like, okay, we'll give you some money to come here, but you got to earn it. We saw what you did in New York with the Jets, with all that, them giving you everything you needed, firing good coaches to try to help make you happy and play better, and it didn't work. So we're not just handing you the keys to the kingdom for another franchise to be driven into the ground. So
Yeah, I could. When you said it, I thought, oh, I could actually see him going to Vegas and like starting ahead of a rookie, where it's like, okay, well, they draft a rookie and the rookie sits and Rodgers starts. But then I thought, well, I don't think Tom Brady would want him. I know the Raiders aren't going to want to re-sign Devontae Adams after what he like forced his way out of there. So I don't see it happening. But if he does end up anywhere, I Raiders, Steelers, but I think he ends up retired and bitching on McAfee's show every day. That's what I expect. So
go higher.
Yeah. So next news, so a lot of potential trades coming up. Myles Garrett has requested a trade from the Browns, who I believe are still saying they're not going to trade him, but they will.
And Browns fans and Browns press are throwing out the most egregious trades I've ever seen for someone so old. Jesus Christ. They thought the Lions should trade Jahmyr Gibbs and 3 first-rounders for him. And I said,
that's a fair trade.
On what goddamn planet are we talking about? Because no.
That's NBA shit. Like that's what would have happened in the NBA. But no, the NFL is not like that.
They just keep also, these Browns Twitter accounts, like press accounts, just keep putting out these trade scenarios, and I'm like, good on you for wishful thinking, but that would never happen because everybody else knows that that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
No, it's that Homer mentality of like, well, you should do this because it's good for my team. It's like, well, that's not the way things work. Like, it has to be even. The Rams have said they're looking to trade Cooper Kupp, even though Cooper Kupp wanted to stay. So it's kind of the opposite of the Myles Garrett thing.
Mm-hmm.
The 49ers have given Deebo Samuel permission to explore trade options, which I don't think he gets traded. I see him more as a cap cut. But excuse me. Maybe. You talked about the Bengals' terrible defense. Well, one of their best defensive players, Jermaine Pratt, requested a trade. We'll see if he gets traded.
I said that doesn't help them at all.
Yeah, yet worse. Dolphins started off the wave of cap-saving releases by releasing Raheem Mostert yesterday. And 2 other names I didn't bother to mention because they're not important.
I didn't even see that one, but that is crazy.
Yeah. He had been a part of their backfield for a while and played really well, and now it's like, oh, I guess it's just Achane all the way.
Yep.
I wanted to mention this just because it is sad news. Bears owner Virginia McCaskey passed away at age 102. And that's amazing to live to 102, and she was still going to games.
Still going to games, still was the president of the team, right?
Yeah. And fun fact, because my dad shared this with me, so I'm sure Bears fans will love it. The final game that she saw was the Bears beating the Packers. So that's pretty fitting.
Nice.
And then some potential trade targets, and I've said potential in air quotes because these are just writers online speculating about who could get traded. We've got Matthew Stafford, Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, DK Metcalf, Garrett Wilson, Tyler Lockett, Kyle Pitts, Micah Parsons, Trey Hendrickson, another Bengal they could lose, Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, Jair Alexander, Reek Woolen, who I didn't even know who the hell that was, and Tyrann Mathieu. So some big names that could potentially be on the move. Probably won't, because these guys are just writing articles for clickbait. But you never know. We talked about Kirk Cousins might get traded if somebody is looking for a bridge starter.
Well, the odds on where Micah Parsons plays next season have the Lions with the highest odds, another team with the second highest odds, and then the Cowboys with the third highest odds.
That's interesting.
And Vegas always knows something, so it'll be interesting to see the Micah Parsons one.
He's been unhappy. He's talked about how he's tired of losing. He wants to play for a contender. He mentioned something about the Cowboys need to be more aggressive in the rebuild. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, if Myles Garrett is supposedly going to be worth 2 first-rounders, what would Micah Parsons be worth? Like,
yeah.
That would actually be a Jahmyr Gibbs and 3 first-rounders trade.
Yeah, that one might actually not hurt as much, but I would still be upset.
I'd still be. That would piss me off if they did that. But I can see David Montgomery. The Cowboys need a running back. They throw in Montgomery. It would be interesting because he would be. Him and Aiden Hutchinson would be insane.
Right?
Yeah,
I've
seen people talk.
Max Crosby's not on your list here. And
I did not see him mentioned. Yeah, I did not see him anywhere I looked up. I didn't see. I know that was like last season. They talked about it too, and obviously he's from Detroit, isn't he? So it's like that would. I
want a Max Crosby, Aiden Hutchinson line next year. That's my biggest wish list this offseason. If it's Micah Parsons, I'm okay with that too. But it all depends on what we have to give up. If it's just picks, I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, that's the big thing is what do you have to give up to get it? Like I've seen people talk about the Commanders trading for Myles Garrett, and I'm like, I'd be fine with it, but what are we giving up? So we'll follow that, and maybe next time we do our draft or free agency recap or draft preview, some of these trades may have happened by then. Yep. All right, then we'll dive into the NFL honors winners real quick. So MVP, Josh Allen, won it kind of in a surprise. Everybody thought it was going to go to Lamar. Offensive Player of the Year, Saquon Barkley. That's not a surprise. Defensive Player of the Year, Patrick Surtain II. I feel like Defensive Player of the Year doesn't get nearly as much attention. But he had a good year in Denver.
He did.
Walter Payton Man of the Year went to Arik Armstead, who plays for the Jaguars. I had to look that up. Coach of the Year, Kevin O'Connell.
Makes no damn sense.
Who do you think should have won?
Dan Campbell should have won it.
Oh, okay.
The guy that beat him twice, and they're labeling off Kevin O'Connell's achievements this season like second best Vikings season ever, this and that, and I'm like, first best Lions season ever, beat the team that apparently the coach of the year's on twice to take the division. Like every single part of what Dan Campbell did was just better than Kevin O'Connell. So it doesn't make sense to me.
I guarantee they gave it to him because after like JJ McCarthy went down and nobody expected the Vikings to do well, and they just looked at like, what was your projected win total? Where did you finish? Okay, Coach of the Year. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Jaden Daniels. Defensive Rookie of the Year went to Jared Verse. He was like the only defensive rookie I heard anything about all season. Yeah, and then Comeback Player of the Year went to Joe Burrow, which I guess makes sense.
Yeah. We got to get Burrow in here somewhere.
Yeah. He said it's not an award I want to win. It's like, well, I wouldn't either. You don't want to be bad enough to win that award the next year.
Exactly.
And then new coaches, they've all been filled. I think some of these we probably mentioned during the playoff pause, but I figured we should recap all of them. Pete Carroll, you talked about, went to the Raiders. Liam Cohen, who was the Bucs offensive coordinator, signed with the Jaguars. Aaron Glenn went to the Jets. Ben Johnson went to the Bears. Kellen Moore Eagles offensive coordinator and old quarterback that I remember watching play. So that's how old we're getting. Is now the head coach of the Saints.
He was a backup for the Lions for a long time.
Yeah.
I think
And now it's like, oh, getting old watching these guys grow up and become coaches now.
But he was offensive coordinator he's been so many places. He was in
Dallas
the Chargers. He was on the Dallas. He's been all over the place. So
Brian Schottenheimer, who was the Cowboys offensive coordinator, is their head coach, which cracks me up. It's like, we had a terrible year. Let's promote. And then Mike Vrabel to the Patriots. I know we mentioned that. So, but that's yeah. All right, then Super Bowl review. Lots to talk about. It was a good game. Eagles upset the Chiefs and did it in grand fashion, 40-22. I think for me, the thing that surprised me the most was how bad Patrick Mahomes looked. And I guess that's more on the Eagles defense than anything else.
Sorry, give me 1 second. My wife is at a pet store, and we're talking about a dog.
Another one.
Well, it's like, this one's so crazy. I feel like if we got another one, the two of them would keep each other busy. I think she needs a friend. And so they're there, and now they're texting me, and I'm just trying to text
Or you would
them
just have two crazy dogs running around. What kind of dog is the second one?
A boy Weimaraner.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Two boy Weimaraner. The girl's fixed, so we're good on that. There will not be puppies. So,
Oh, man.
But, yeah.
All right, well, yeah, you go ahead and text. But, yeah, I think the Eagles' defense, I knew they were good. They were good. I did not know they were this level of good.
Well, it's kind of crazy to me just looking at, teams from the NFC we think could make the playoffs next year that didn't. There are tons of them that are completely viable options that I believe in. The AFC, I'm like, wow, that seems awful top heavy. And then the top of the AFC went against the top of the NFC and got blown out.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Maybe we're starting to see a switch over to the NFC now, where the AFC, they're top heavy, but I think the NFC showed this Super Bowl that there's a lot on that side of the ball where people weren't giving them the credit they deserved. So, that defense on the Eagles was really, really good. And Saquon played a great game, but didn't have to be the hero. Jalen Hurts won the Super Bowl MVP because he played well enough and made enough plays that they, blew out the two-time Super Bowl champions and just only made minimal mistakes. You know what I mean? So, I don't know.
Yeah.
It was great. And the Chiefs just looked completely out of sorts that entire game. And then the body language of everyone on that team throughout the game just looked terrible. Travis Kelce looked like he didn't want to be there.
Yeah, Travis Kelce really looked like, it's like, all right, if you're not going to hand me a Super Bowl trophy, I'm not going to try. And everyone's talking about, well, is he going to retire or not? And I'm like, I thought he retired at halftime. Like, that dude just straight gave up. I don't see him coming back.
Brother retired. See how well he's doing outside of football. Yeah. And then,
commercials and shit. Yeah.
You see how well he's doing. You were going for a three-peat. You didn't get it. Now you got to work your way back to the top of the mountain. That's not a one-year thing. It could be, but it could be multiple years. And does he want to play multiple years to get back to that? We'll see what he does. I feel like I'm with you, though. I feel like he's got a girlfriend that he can put all his attention into, while also probably being just as successful as Jason Kelce outside of playing football. You know what I mean? So,
I think he will make just as much, if not more, money doing commercials and shit like that. I just don't see him coming back. Plus, the Chiefs do have some cap issues, and him retiring would definitely help them out. So I think he retires.
I mean, if it's comparison wise, right? If Gronk can have a successful career now as a analyst with his goofiness, Kelsey's almost the same type of person, and it'll work out very similar, I think. So
Yeah. I could see them doing a Kelsey brother, Manning brother type show together. Like, I think that would do pretty well because I've seen Jason do a couple things and he is very good. He's a good commentator. Like, he's insightful and he's funny. I'm sure Travis is probably the same way. So
the New Heights podcast is really good, and if they could translate that to their own version of like Thursday Night Football, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
And it might bring more eyes to Thursday Night Football, to be honest. So there's that.
Oh man. Other things from the Super Bowl, yeah, Jalen Hurts. I do want to give a shout out to him because throughout most of the playoffs, it was like, oh, they're just riding Saquon and Hurts isn't doing much. But in the Super Bowl, it really was Jalen Hurts. He was their leading rusher. Threw 221 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then of course the defense that like I said, I knew the defense was good. I didn't know they were good enough to steamroll the 2-time champion Chiefs. Like that was awesome. And sorry to all the Chiefs fans out there, but I do enjoy watching your team lose.
Yeah.
You've won plenty. Not going to feel sorry for you. So yeah, it was fun. All right. So next up, let's move into our free agency preview. So free agency starts, I think it's like 3 weeks from Monday. Yeah, getting just pretty close actually. So the top 10 projected free agents, according to Pro Football Focus. We got T. Higgins for the Bengals, obviously not big free agents, wide receiver target for teams. Trey Smith, guard from the Chiefs, is projected to be top offensive line. Got Javon Holland, safety from Miami. Chris Godwin from Tampa Bay. Khalil Mack.
I feel bad for Chris Godwin. Just getting hurt right before his free agency.
And he was having a hell of a year, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Khalil Mack is a free agent, getting up there in age, though. DJ Reed from the Jets, corner, and who I want the Commanders to sign desperately. Amari Cooper, who I believe has like an opt-out option or something in his contract, but everybody assumes he's going to opt out and become a free agent. Ronnie Stanley, tackle from Baltimore. Sam Darnold, who is the number 1 free agent quarterback. There's a bunch of potential trade quarterbacks. And then Josh Sweat, one of the Eagles' pass rushers, who just had a good Super Bowl run and is probably going to make a bunch of money. So those are the top 10. Any other potential free agents that you want to talk about or hope the Lions sign?
No, I'm going to have to look into that before our free agent preview. Because there's going to be... It's going to be a lot of what did we release if we do before free agency and what do we need now. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, the Commanders, like Jonathan Allen, I feel is going to be a cap casualty or maybe traded. So that's something to discuss. For looking at this list, obviously the Commanders' 3rd most cap space, so that's nice. I'm looking at T. Higgins, I'm looking at DJ Reed, maybe Ronnie Stanley. It's like, boy, it sure would be great to get 1 or 2 of those guys. If I had to choose only one, I'd probably go with DJ Reed because we could always draft a wide receiver, in the first round. But we'll see. The cool thing too is like I look back at last year when the Commanders signed a bunch of mid-tier free agents. They got Eckler and Bobby Wagner, but like Frankie Louvu, I didn't know who that was a year ago, and now he's my tribal chief, and I love that guy. So it's
like Anzalone when we signed him. Like there's names that become
Austin, man. Yeah.
There's names that become just entrenched as one of the biggest guys on your team despite not being the biggest signing, right? And so, and I was going to mention that it's crazy to me that the Commanders have that much cap room when they signed so many good players last offseason. And now they have a team that went to the NFC Championship has a chance to just be that much better. So their GM is doing a great job and probably will continue to do that job with this much money in a decent free agent pool. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, he really, like Adam Peters, he went bargain shopping last year and just signed a bunch of guys to 1 or 2 year deals, and a lot of them, man, just were home runs. So yeah, and that's when they talk about like the Super Bowl window. Unfortunately, the Commanders Super Bowl window opened a lot earlier than they were planning, because you got Jaden Daniels on a rookie contract. It's like, all right, you got 4 years of paying him as a rookie before you're gonna have to pay him. Now's the time to win. So it's like, shit, we better hit free agency in the draft. So yeah, we got a lot of money, could free up some more. Just got to make sure we sign the right guys, because I will say this, as much as Adam Peters did right, he did trade for Marshawn Lattimore, and boy, has that done nothing for us.
That's what I was going to mention. He did also trade
he's not inflappable.
So
yeah, he's not inflappable.
Yeah.
He is not Superman. He does have weaknesses, but maybe Lattimore in a full off season comes back and plays better. But holy shit, does that look like a wasted trade at this moment?
Also, by the way, on the Jets making the playoffs next year thing, look who's at near the bottom. They're in the green, so there's that. But
yeah, they are, and and then when they release Aaron Rodgers, I bet that frees up a bunch of money too.
Okay, well, that is a thing.
Actually,
so
I will look that up. Let's see, because I have Over the Cap open right now. Well, releasing Devontae Adams would free up $36 million. Rodgers is only $9.5, but still, that's $45 million more that they'll have after they get rid of those two.
All right.
But as of right now, so looking at projected cap space, the Patriots, of course, have the most because they have no talent on that roster. $120 million. And I think, I like Mike Vrabel. I think they are going to make smart decisions with their signings.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited to see where it goes. The Raiders, who was one of your teams projected to make the playoffs, have $92 million. Which I think they already have a lot of good players. So if they can attract big name free agents, I mean, they could definitely push for the playoffs next year. The Commanders have $75 million. Cardinals 71. So again, Cardinals finished 8-9 and still have a bunch of cap space. So Chargers 63, Bears 62, Vikings 58. Steelers 53 million, Bengals 46, Lions 45. So again, that's a good amount of cap space. I mean, it's right in the middle of the pack, but you figure at the bottom there are a lot of teams that are way over the cap. Saints 54 million over the cap as of right now, which they are always over the cap. I don't know, like obviously I feel like Derek Carr probably gets released. But I don't know how else, like they just sign extensions and give people upfront payments, and it seems like cheating in a way, but somehow they manage.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to look to see who some of their release could be. Yeah, Derek Carr, 30 million if they release him. So I definitely see that happening.
Which would bring them down to 24 million over the cap.
Yeah.
They still
over the cap. Also over the cap, Browns, Bills, Seahawks, Falcons, Dolphins, Cowboys, and then Chiefs and Texans by a little bit. But
I say Texans just barely.
Yeah, Texans are like one game check away over the cap. But all right, well there you go. So yeah, that's just a quick little free agency preview. I figure the Wednesday before maybe we'll do a quick pod going over who's been cut and news like that, and then before the draft we can do our draft preview and look at some of our sleepers. I will be looking at running backs because the Commanders need one. So I will be looking in depth at which running backs I like.
I like it. That'll work. Maybe you can get a Gibbs. The guy no one knows with the 15th or the end of the draft, first round.
Yeah, I mean that would be cool, but I like the idea of finding that third or fourth round guy that breaks out. I mean, David Montgomery, I think, was a fourth round pick, and look what he's turned into. But we do need
good.
Yeah, we need a Gibbs. We've got Brian Robinson. He's more of our short yardage guy. We need that electric pull away running back. I would honestly, I if they were to just be like, fuck it, let's trade up for Ashton Genty. Oh, I'd love that shit. I mean, that'd be like finding our Saquon Barkley. Like, I would love that.
I would assume that this is his brother, but I'm looking at the running back invite list for the combine. Trevor Etienne from Georgia.
That is his brother. Yeah, that is Travis Etienne's brother, yes.
Imagine.
And then, of course, there's hometown kid Cam Scatterbo.
I was about to say, imagine they draft Cam Scatterbo.
Do you think now? I think Cam Scatterbo will be a very good power runner in the NFL. Do you think he's fast enough to break away, like to be an every down guy?
I think so. In college he was every down, and he was making long rushes and still never going out of the game.
Yeah.
So I mean,
that's my only worry about. I would love if they took Cam Scatterbo in the third round and he like broke out. My only fear is I worry that the NFL players, like the secondary guys, are a little faster and might catch him, but.
Yeah,
I'm wrong. I can't. When the combine comes out, I'm excited to see his like 40 time and shuttle time. Like that's. If he runs fast, I feel like he's going to move into like the second and third round. He will be a very high pick because that guy. And you talk about heart too. Like that's another thing is like he is determined.
Was he? He was in the Heisman voting, wasn't he?
No, I think he was. He got snubbed.
Yeah, or maybe that was the snub.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was the
He's
snub.
number 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Number 5 on the Heisman list.
Why did I feel like he got... Was he not invited to New York, maybe? I could have sworn there was something about the Heisman.
There were only 3 invited to New York.
That's what it was. Okay, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be a fun draft. Because again, then you got Tate McMillan. I mean, there's some hometown people that we get to see where they end up.
Yeah, I like it. It'll be fun for sure. So cool. Well, just say this. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us this season. I know there were some weeks we missed with a lot of things going on outside of the podcast in real life, keeping us from doing certain episodes, but thanks for sticking with us, and we will be back soon for season 4. It'll be a lot of fun, and we look forward to seeing you guys on the live streams, talking to you guys while you mow your lawn, driving in your car, whatever you're doing. It'll be fun again next season. So thanks for listening this season. We appreciate you. Richie, you got anything else you want to say?
No, just thanks for listening to us just ramble on and talk about football and whatever else pops in our heads, NBA trades, Weinereimers. I mean, it's a fun time.
Exactly. All right, everybody, we'll be back for season 4, but for now, this season is over. Good luck to your teams in the off season, unless they're trying to steal my players. See you later.